on to the cross-country handicap chase. This is a different beast entirely to, obviously, the other handicaps. It's a very niche race. Obviously, like I say, a bit mild. It's very mild with the loss of Delta Work earlier this week as well. But it's a race that, because the conditions have changed back to a handicap, I have gone back and looked at what used to happen. Because when it was first installed, I think there's maybe 10 or 11 run-ins where it was a handicap. And I just think that the nature of this race has changed since back then. And what I mean by that is, in between it being a handicap and it being this, it was just Gold Cup horses coming here and running. So when it used to be the handicap, I don't think as many like good horses would come in here. And now it is back as a handicap. I wonder if just the good horses are, like we always used to say, the proverbial graded horse in a handicap. I wonder whether they'll actually just fight it out and weight becomes less relevant. And I say all of that because it helps my case for the fact that Stumptown was another horse that I watched this season. When he did what he did to Mr. Coffee, which admittedly I know it's only Mr. Coffee, you just watch that and just think, I don't really care how much weight they give him off the back of that, because he had whatever he liked in hand. He looked like he'd just been thrown in after that last hurdle. Now, he did get an £8 rise. We're using the basis of what he's got for the Grand National to say that that's the mark that he'll get for this race. So Mr. Coffee would look incredibly well handicapped off the back of that. But Mr. Coffee's Mr. Coffee, isn't he? Never wins a race. And the thing with Stumptown is Keith Donohue's got such a great record in this race anyway. He's going to be on top of him. He's excited about this horse. But the ride that he gave him, I remember watching it thinking, he doesn't know that Nico's there. And then obviously he did realise he was there. But you know when a horse wins in a canter like that, Will, and no one knows for definite how much they've got left under the bonnet. It's always a bit of conspiracy. And that's maybe where they can get a reasonable handicap mark. When he realised Mr. Coffee was there and he asked him to go, he looked like a 5 furlong sprinter. He quickened instantly. And then even after, when they crossed the line as well, like the horse was like, oh, you made me run and now you want to make me stop. Like he could have gone round again and again and again. So I think that Stumptown is like most certainly the most likely winner of the cross country for me. Certain horses do like this type of test. It's risky for the fact that it has changed to a handicap. When it wasn't a handicap, it was the graded races. I used to love getting stuck into these sort of 2-to-1 favourites because there was only a couple of them that could win it. Gordon's obviously got Galvin in here that he said he's got in really good form. He's exactly where he's supposed to be. The better the ground, the better his chances, what Gordon said about him. But I just think that Stumptown's run was so eye-catching that even though he's got a relative hike in the weights, I think they could have given him a stone and it wouldn't have made... I mean, it obviously does make a difference, but I don't think it would have made too much difference, especially in this type of discipline. You either get on jumping around the track with weight on your back or you don't. And I think he's going to be able to defy the penalty. He's 5-2, like non-runner money back best price at the moment. He's pushing sort of 3-1 on the exchanges. I think there's a world I can see where you do get a bit of a bigger price than him on the day, but I'm not adverse to him anything north of 2-1. I think he's a relatively strong bet. In terms of how much I would bet in point system for, say, something like a champion hurdle, where it could go up to 5-10 points, for example, as much as I'm going to get excited about a cross country, it would only ever be a couple of point type scenario. There's only so much money I'd invest in this, but I can't see how Stumptown gets beat, Will.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I'd say is I think Gavin Cromwell will train the winner. Whether it's Stumptown or not, though, I'm not entirely sure, because Vanillier, certainly at the prices right now, I think is a really good each way bet. Non-runner, no bet. It's been mooted he might go straight to the Grand National, but I don't think that's ever been the plan. I think he's been brought along this season with just chiseling his handicap mark down a few pounds, really, because he had headgear back on for the first time at Punchestown over the banks. If you go back to the first week of this month, February, that was the blinkers on for the first time. And you watch that race, the zest with which he went through that race on heavy ground, beating some pretty solid cross country horses, the likes of Cocoa Beach, Stealthy Tom, 3x2. I mean, he absolutely burnt them off with a manner that we hadn't seen from him for a fair while, actually, because he's been campaigned as a Grand National horse for the last couple of seasons, and it's not quite worked out. And I think they've realised with him, well, why are we basing our whole season around one race where suddenly it might go wrong in the blink of an eye? So I think that they probably have other targets in mind or other thoughts in mind this season. That Punchestown Banks race would have been one. And amazingly, the UK handicapper on the mark that he's given him in the Grand National is it's either the same or it's only up £1 or £2, despite what he did. Let me just check in here. 147. So he's given him £3 more, sorry, from 144 to 147. In respect to what he gave Stumptown, which I can understand because visually Stumptown's cross-country win back at the track this season was, mightily impressive. But he's given him £8 or £9 on the back of that. So for me, I think Vanillier is inherently a classier animal than Stumptown. He's running a whole host of graded races. He's won Grade 2s, Grade 3s. He's won at the Cheltenham Festival before. You look at Stumptown, he's never run in an open company graded race. He's made his way up through the ranks into handicaps and through there. And look, don't get me wrong, he looked brilliant at Cheltenham when he won. But I think when you look at the festival and look at what this race has become, I think Vanillier has always been a classier animal. He's a couple of years older, so fair enough. But I think he's a cracking each way bet, Vanillier. I really do. I think the blinkers will be on again. Keith Donoghue will probably choose Stumptown. That's fine. I think Johnny Burke rode Vanillier around the track when he had a bit of an acclimatizing visit in behind Stumptown that day. Massive each way price about Vanillier, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is fair case. Sort of tempered my enthusiasm slightly with Stumptown. And the thing with Stumptown as well is I backed him in the Kim Muir last year? No, a couple of years ago maybe. But I've backed him in the past at Cheltenham and he didn't quite get the job done in a festival.
Oh, he's run a cracker though at the last two festivals, hasn't he? Don't get me wrong. He turns up at the festival. It's not that I'm suggesting he's not going to go and win and Vanillier is going to wipe the floor with him by any stretch.
Oh,
no, I just think there are various things which line up and price related as things are now. It has to be a bet on each way on Vanillier, each way for me.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I was semi-considering whether Mr. Coffee was worth a saver for the fact that we know that it'll be there or thereabouts, but we just know that Mr. Coffee is never going to win. You get the same price about Vanillier.
Just wait for the place market.
Well, that's it, yeah. And you get a 4th place with Vanillier, but at least the win part of his bet isn't necessarily dead, is it? So,
yeah.
Very good there. But I mean, still pray for Stumptown.